It's part 2 of my ultimate foot peg setup. What I've got here is I've finally had my delivery of the ALTRIDER extra large foot pegs. These look like a really nice bit of kit, and hopefully they're going to fit perfectly with the TwinPegs kit without any modifications, but I am prepared to make some if needed. They come without all the bolts attached, which is one thing to bear in mind, that not everyone might have an external torque socket. This is a E7. Not everyone has one like that, so it's worth having one of these because you do have to fit all these yourself. I've gone with their recommended setup with the shims and washers here, so it cambers up slightly, less likely your foot's going to slide off the side if it does taper up. People online are concerned that these are far too big, that you're going to hit them, but looking at how my boot overlaps the original foot peg, and I've done a measurement here, my boots are just as wide as this, so there's not really going to be anything that's going to hit, and if it does, then you're going to hit your foot anyway, so there's no concerns there. Thing to look at is, it says they're anodized online, but I've never seen an anodized finish that looks like paint. This looks like powder coat to me, whether or not it's anodized and then lacquered on top. But I've done a few scratch tests and I've compared it to all my other anodizing, and yeah, this is definitely painted. I've also got my high tensile bolts that I'm going to use for the brake and gear lever pivots. You probably don't need them, but this is just belts and braces. ALTRIDER themselves already do a good video explaining the setup and installation, and the little camber adjustment bolts there, and also that the springs are handed. They've color coded them to make that easier. But yeah, these look like a great bit of kit, and I'm looking forward to trying them. They have a lot more contact area with your boot, so they're less likely to slip and cut in, because I'm finding that the original foot pegs cut in quite harshly. I've got the CD Adventure 2 boots, and they're quite soft on the soles. I want to do a little test here to see if I gain any height over the original ones, so then I know if I need to adjust these again, because I've already set these to a good height for me with the original foot pegs without the rubbers, because I don't need those. So what I do is I go diagonally across here and then just make a little mark where it is, and then I'll do the same test when I put the new pegs on to see if I've gained or lost any height, and then we can work from that to set this without doing any test rides. It's time to disassemble this side. You can see my other video on how I installed these. Okay, when I undo this, the washers and the little O-rings are probably going to drop out. I need to clean this all up again and put it back in. Okay. I'm probably going to need to take this cover off again. I'm not sure right now. I might not need to if the spacer stays in. Let's have a look. Might have to take it all apart because it makes it easier when you're reassembling not to lose any of the washers or O-rings. Let's see. Here we are, one washer's dropped out. Okay. Let's see. The gold spring from the ALTRIDER kit goes on the right hand side, and the silver one goes on the left hand side. Right. So I'll clean that all up again in a minute. Last time I had a problem where I had to clean that hole out with a flat wheel. I think I'm going to have to do it again. Oh no, it goes in. Right. Right. Hopefully the O-ring hasn't dropped out on the other side of my brake lever pivot here. Okay, the spring goes like that through the hole. This is the gold one, and then that sits in the little cutout there. It's just going to take a bit of persuasion to get it all to line up perfectly. I'm only tapping that, I'm not beating it in. If you're beating it in, it's probably going to cause a little lip on the bottom, and then you'll struggle to get it in and out. Okay, that's on. Crikey, it looks massive. You can see it's not that big in reality. Okay, so what's going on here is I followed the ALTRIDER's camber settings using one fat and one thin washer, and when checking how parallel it looks to the TwinPegs, it was much more tapered in, and it looked really bad. I know it might not be so bad in practice when riding, but it just didn't look very nice. So I've just been adjusting this a few times to get it right, and I've just put one of the really thin washers in there. No washers makes it too much the other way. So now when I go to put the arm in place, they look pretty parallel here. See, they look much more parallel than before. The only thing is here, I can already see that these are much higher than the original pegs, so I'm going to have to spacer that up more. I'm probably just going to put the fat spacer in there and then give that a test ride. The only problem is here is this spacer has turned somehow when removing this ever so slightly, because the holes behind are not aligning. So I'm going to have to adjust all that again with the TwinPeg special tool. But I reckon it's still going to be a good setup. It just takes a few attempts to get it perfect. Right, I'm just on final reassembly here, and I've realigned that, and it looks like it's going to be okay once the bolts are in. I've got my high tensile bolt in here for belts and braces. I haven't put high tensile on the top three here because if they do snap, it'll be much easier to extract, whereas if this one snaps, it's going to be a right ball ache to try and extract it. But you could always put the high tensile ones on the top there. It might help. Just take slop out of these three and the pivot bolt at the same time, and then I've got to put the spring back on. I think they're 8 or 9 from memory, but I'm just going to hand tighten these. Okay, this one's got to be 17 Newton meters. There we are. Okay, and I put the spring back on. All good. Let's do my final test here for the height difference. Try and bring this closer so you can see. You always see my black line there. Let's go diagonally again. So it's about 8 millimeters higher, that. So you have got lost a little bit of your knee comfort there, and you will be standing a little bit higher. Maybe you can get some shorter ones of these if you want it lower, but it just hits on there. So that's the only thing to bear in mind. It does hit just there, strikes on there. They are compatible together, but just bear that in mind. If you drop the bike, it might do a little bit more damage on here than you think. Also up close you can see that that's silver anodized, and this is paint for sure, just to clear that one up. And that's this little striking point is just on the edge of there to here. But yeah, that's the right hand side installed. The gain in height here actually helps where I've got this foldable brake lever pedal, because it was a little bit high, that, but now this is a little bit higher, it sort of helps with that. But we'll see what my riding comfort's like with the little gain here. It might just put a little bit more uncomfort on the knees, and I will check again here and see what the deal is with the height adjustment here. But let's just say I've got my boot on there. I mean, yeah, it does stick out a little bit. My feet aren't normally that close in, they're more around here when riding, so in reality that's how much it would stick out when you're riding, and it's really nothing. A couple of final points to add is that the height difference might not be so much if you have the rubber blocks in place originally, but if you're doing off-roading you don't have the rubber blocks on because it's slippery. I have put the gear lever up one spline again on here, just easier to do it on the splines and adjust it on the rod for this amount of difference. And the final benefit of these larger pegs are when you want to get on it like this, it's just so much easier to step on and off the bike. Say if you're a bit short or you've got luggage or a luggage box to clear, you can easily just step on and off, then kick my camera over.